Welcome to the Character Sheet, comicbook.com's official fantasy and tabletop YouTube channel. I am Christian Hoffer, and boy. And today, I am joined by a very special guest, somebody who has caused me to not be able to say sentences correctly. Miss Aabria Iyengar of, so many things. Critical Role, Dimension 20, Worlds Beyond Number, which I keep saying Worlds Without Number and have to constantly get corrected. You are the tabletop rock star herself. How are you doing?
I'm so good. I'm only sad that I didn't get to say my own name, or I would have stumbled through that in solidarity with you. But
Don't worry. You'll have plenty of opportunities to stumble through things with me as we do this interview.
I've never said a word right. I won't start today. We're good.
So today we are here to talk about a new project of yours, which was just announced and will be debuting as we're recording this next week, but it will get posted the day before the show starts. Dimension 20, Burrow's End. So, why don't you, let's get things started, why don't you run us down what Burrow's End is all about?
So we've been very cheeky about explaining too much of what's going on. There are like plenty of people who saw the trailer and they're like, oh, I really don't know what's happening, and all that's very intentional. This is a darker series that is going to sidestep a lot of the like very humorous mashups that Dimension 20 is famous for, and really dig into what it means to be family, what it means to be community, and the importance of having each other as you move through a dangerous world. We've been very loud about our like big comps being Watership Down and like The Secret of Nim and The Animals of Farthingwood, a little bit of Redwall in there. All of those children's stories that very specifically feature animals that don't wear clothes, because somehow the animals that don't wear clothes, those stories are always so much more traumatic than the other ones. Just across the board, if you put a little sweater vest on a frog, you're gonna have a great time. If that's just a full rabbit running through the woods, you're gonna cry forever. So really like the heart of the season is our family and watching them move through the world as they look for their new home and come to understandings with each other. And it's just so good. I can't wait for people to see this. And I'll stop rambling now so you can ask a question.
I mean, you answered 3 questions that I hadn't even asked yet.
Look at us.
But one of my big questions is, first and foremost, I absolutely love this particular genre of fantasy. Both of my boys would have been named Matthias if not for the fact that we had to name them after dead people instead.
Okay.
But Matthias was my first choice both times.
Keep it on the list. You'll have time.
Yeah. But I do have to ask, why Stoats?
So, okay, this is really fun. When I was first leaning into the like Watership Down of it all, I was like, oh, if you do rabbits, it's just inexorably tied to Watership Down, and then it's hard to pivot or move away or iterate on that without breaking expectation. So as I was thinking about like the sort of animal intersection of like what's going on around rabbits and hares, I got to like, okay, so what if these aren't prey animals? What if they're predators? And who are natural predators of rabbits? And then you get to stoats, who very specifically, stoats are cool for a bunch of reasons, but it all began with the fact that like stoats quite often will clear out a burrow from a bunch of rabbits or hares and live in it. So there's very much this like you like get in, get your prey, take their fur to line your home, and then live in their home. So there's this like kind of fun, subtle idea that like the burrow that we meet the family in might be a burrow that once belonged to a family of rabbits from maybe Watership Down. So the moment you make it predators, you get to play with like all of the things around like what are you willing to fight for? Why do you fight? Who do you fight? And mustelids in general are all like they're that very specific species of like genre, great, family of animals that will fight things that are bigger than them, like take them down. There's something both very cute in the way they look because they're like stretched out little noodles of guys, but they also fight viciously, go for the throat. Like you get a little bit of both in a really fun way. Stoats, and specifically the idea that stoats and ermines are the same animal. It's just a matter of like what their coat looks like given the time of year. And stoats are predators and an invasive species and all of these things to other animals. And then when their fur turns white, they become the most predated on by humans who will like take their fur. So there's this like interesting idea of like who you are, who is hunting you, who do you hunt, that stoats very specifically do a lot of very fun thematic things.
It's really interesting because in so many of these, different fantasy stories about animals, stoats and weasels are so often portrayed as the villains.
Yeah.
And, here they, and, I had the opportunity to watch the first episode of Burrow's and, no spoilers, but it's really interesting to see like the level of vulnerability that they're depicted with, given that that's such a contrast with how they're usually depicted in the genre.
Yeah. There's a lot around the like, especially like when you deal with like Redwall and like different kinds of animals and who's good and who's bad. When you deal with the difference between like herbivores and carnivores, it's very easy to like paint carnivores in a predatory antagonistic light given human understanding of what those social dynamics are. But I don't like it kind of goes without saying, I don't mean to be like weirdly condescending about it, but like to any other animal, a stoat is just someone trying to survive. Like all of the like social and moral things that we put on them in children's stories like don't necessarily apply. So it also felt like it's not like I like justice for carnivores or omnivores, but like yeah, everyone's just kind of doing their thing. Like if a stoat is built to have to eat meat, like it's not personal that they like hunt and kill animals. It's simply the thing they must do. So playing with that like new baseline and kind of shifting the baseline and saying like, all right, none of the of the hunting of little animals that we see in the stories is like met with the understanding with like to a stoat that they are the bad guys. Like let's talk about that with our new baseline and go see what the big scary things in the world are to them.
So I do have another question. This has gotten asked a lot after Burrow's End was revealed. You, in particular, a lot of your Dimension 20 shows, you have opted for game systems that are not Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
But for this one, you chose Dungeons and Dragons, despite the fact that you would think that little animals that are the prey for something else that doesn't necessarily line up with the power fantasy that 5e specifically does. So walk us through that decision.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you thought a lot about this.
Yeah, and there's been a little bit of like talk about it on socials, and I welcome that because I always have felt that like getting to know lots of different systems inside of TTRPGs will help you understand what mechanics and what expectation setting within the like RNG of it all helps you tell the story. Because if you don't have a system, you're just doing improv. And that's also fine and good. There's nothing wrong with that. But the moment you start to layer in mechanics, the moment those mechanics need to mean something and they have to drive a certain kind of result, or more specifically, like what is like are mechanics a sort of propaganda that encourages and expectation sets a certain kind of play? So really like jumping through. So yeah, I looked at some of the like animal based systems, like Bunnies and Burrows is truly right there. It was it was developed like a couple years after D&D first debuted in the world. But Bunnies and Burrows and Root and like lighter systems like Wanderhome are really good at telling specific kinds of stories But the thing I wanted to get into across this, and the way the genre bends away from Watership Down and we're just a bunch of little animals running through the woods, and the animals that are bigger than us are the threats. Lots of those systems have means for avoiding conflict, because it's a fight that you can't win given size and scale. I picked 5th edition and D&D specifically because of, and trying to thread this needle without spoiling too much. D&D is very good at having you intersect and interact with change and growth in power. And because it's based off of it is the legacy of Western European wargaming. So it does have a very specific lens that it asks you to look at the world with. Yes, there are many pillars of play that are part of D&D, but when you get down to the fight of it all, and yes, this season is a beautiful collaboration with the art department spearheaded by Rick Perry, and we've got maps and minis and all of the fun, let's get into the fight of it all. Once you get into that, D&D, by virtue of the way it handles abilities within combat, asks you to look at combat very tactically and plays with power in a way that that's exactly what I wanted from the season, and wanted to talk a little bit about how power changes you as you go and grow. So I hope it lands by the end of the series, but I do happily welcome any suggestions on other systems, because we're here, we're telling stories. I think it's good to be very vocal about systems and story, and recommendations are always I think that's a good and healthy part of this community.
Well, and I think how you in particular use game systems, I think that, having watched you run 5e games with Critical Role and things like that, you do not let the technical aspects overwhelm you really use the game mechanics as a tool, as opposed to these are the walls that we have to play in. And in a way that I think that people often forget that GMs can do so well, and you're absolutely amazing with it. Sometimes I forget that you're even playing D&D 5e because of just how you're using the rule sets. And once again, no spoilers here, but you do a really good job of that in the first episode of Burrow's in.
Oh, thank you.
Really impressive.
Thank you.
So can we, talking a little bit more broadly about the show, I also know that you had a lot of, input into the cast. So can you walk us through why you picked the particular cast members, why you made the recommendations for who you did? Because there's a couple of people that we don't often see on Dimension.
Yes. I will start first and foremost. If you've ever seen that TikTok meme that ends with the little slap and grab of a dog being dragged off frame, that's how I always treat the beginning of a season with Brennan and another Worlds Beyond Number member. They cannot get away from me, and I will grab as many of them as I can, like Elmira from Tiny Toons, and drag them kicking and screaming into the dome. So, however many of them I can grab, it's always, I always grab Brennan first, and then I try to get that other arm. This one I got Erica. Lou got away, but I'll get him next time. Always it's just, yeah, you always want to start with those absolute shooters in your corner where you're I know that if we sit down and when we sit down and talk about this and about the sort of theme and story and the thing being built and what we'll piggyback on, these are people that are at the top of their game. They get it. They're going to kill it all day long. And we've played enough with each other that it feels very easy to no look pass. There's just a sense of perfect trust there that I will always be grateful for to have at my table. When it comes to Siobhan, it's always fun to sit down with a new season and be can I steal an intrepid hero? Will they let me have one? And I've had Siobhan in my sights for so long, and this one lined up where she was like, yeah, I think I can make it work. And I was like, cool, I will change any amount of the shooting schedule to like make sure you can. I've wanted to play with her for so long. I think she's so clever and fun and funny and can go really big and really wacky, but also like understands a like dramatic grounded moment and can give you both. And you've seen the first episode. Her choice to come in with the like with the way Jason is the exact right like spice for what's happening, and it keeps everything from feeling too like, oh, we're all doing this very like somber meditative like Jason's just like a breath of fresh air, and it's a testament to Siobhan's like utter understanding of like what the spread of characterization needs to be to come in with the best little guy ever. Had me howling and screaming and laughing the entire season and the entire shoot. Yeah, getting into the like the new kids. Sorry. Before we even get to the new kids, I've been trying to get Izzy at my table forever. We first met when we did the 7 back in 2021. And I do remember that like after the first day, I think I sent Brennan a text like, I want Izzy to be my best friend, and please help. I just need you to like convince her that friendship with me is not a bad thing. And this is a weird text, so maybe ignore that. So I've loved Izzy since the beginning, and I've seen a bunch of her improv. I go to bigger as often as I can. She's just the funniest human ever. So I was just like, yes, please give me that. If we can line up that shot, I will do whatever it takes to drag you towards the dome with me. Because you like, that's like the fun thing of like, oh, cool. We've been at a party together. I would like to throw a party and have you and like invite you to it. So I'm so glad it lined up. And everything she did with Lila is so cute and fun and heartfelt. And like, again, that idea of playing a child at a table comes with all of the like, how do you handle the heavy moments? How do you handle the levity? Can you thread the needle of the expectation of a full adult with a full adult's intelligence moving through the world and through a story with the eyes and heart of a child? And she nailed it. And then it always comes down to the like, who are the new people you bring to the dome? For me, I think it's always really important to remember that there's always a little bit of duty that comes with being put in big spaces with high profile, like just be like, if you have a big stage, like there's some extra responsibility to it. And I want to open the door and bring more people in with me. Jasper and I have been homies for a while. I've played at his table. We've played at things together. And this like felt like the like, oh, I know he's great and fun and funny and thoughtful. He's an excellent GM and an excellent player, and like understands story, and he has a little British accent, so we're really gonna land that like cute tiny animals in the forest just when he opens his mouth. Like that's an easy win. I got 2 British people on the cast. Great. Everyone knows exactly what we're doing the moment they talk to each other. Perfect. So that felt like a really fun opportunity to bring him in just because he's good. And the fact that like, I also want to like open and hold space for people of color here too, and like signal to like the rest of the space, like, hey, we're out here, we're in these streets, like keep your eyes out, like keep watching and keep looking. And then with Rashawn, yeah, Rashawn was the person I knew the least out of all of this, but had consumed a tremendous amount of her improv work, both on, like mostly on Dropout, on like the other shows that are there, but also like catching her, because we all roll in little like improv spaces out here. I'm a little UCB kid too, and knowing her via her like reputation and the things I'd seen other places. Before I knew she had played like a significant amount of D&D and other RPGs, I think she's got like a Monster of the Week podcast. I was just like, I don't care if she's never seen it before. She knows story, she knows flexibility, she knows choice. She's like, she is a storyteller. We can like, the form of TTRPGs is teachable. If you see talent in storytelling, bring them in and be like, cool, here's a new way to do this thing that I already know you're excellent at. And then she showed up and was like, yeah, I've done this and I'm incredible. And I was like, oh, great. Well, thank you for being an absolute rock star right away. And then it took truly minutes in our character gen for like the dynamics to develop, and everyone settled into like who they were with each other, and all the connectivity like lit up right away. And I think that was the moment where I was like, oh, I know we're going to be fine. Like there's nothing that needs to be done to like push the chemistry and like get everyone settled in with each other. They were there from minute one, and you can feel it in all of the interactions across the season. It's just such a gift.
When you guys were creating your characters and doing the session 0, did you suggest to the players to like, that you're all part of an extended family, or did that come together kind of like on their own?
I did come in with that suggestion. I was like,
Okay.
hey, you don't have to do this, but my recommendation for this story and this brief is be a family, because there's so much of the like us versus the world and us versus them that is a like through line of this season, that you being dialed in with each other by blood and by bond and by choice is important. But we did hold space if anyone wanted to be a little more distantly connected. But yeah, everyone fell in right away with like, yeah, let's be a family. And it becomes this really fun, like across the 3 seasons that I've run it at Dimension 20. The first one was like, hey, a couple of students that, or like a couple of teenagers didn't know each other, got thrown into this like found family. And then going into A Court of Fey and Flowers, where everyone was like very specifically separate from one another, and they find reasons, and like the connection and the developing of those like ties and bonds is the point of the story. And in that same way, getting to this one, like you are a family, and now that is the point of the story. You are a family. Let's see what happens when a family goes through some stuff. So yeah.
It was interesting in the first episode because establishing that it's a family right from the outset allowed you to like delve in. It allowed you guys to introduce the characters in a much more, I feel like, organic way, and like
Yeah.
immediately into like there was no like, oh, everyone meets at a tavern and now here's the backstories. You didn't have to do any of that. It was just like, it's like bam, like here are the kids, bam, here's the husband and wife, and it allowed you to set up the conflict in such a really unique and fascinating way. And it kind of ties into one of the last things I wanted to talk about before Pete jumps in. One of the like commonalities when it comes to this fantasy genre with animal fantasy is the themes of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Once again, the second that these animals aren't wearing pants, suddenly you're like afraid that like
Yes.
a stick's gonna kill them.
Yeah.
Did making the decision to not only like these are animals, the world is very cruel to them, and couple that with the natural, like it's a family unit, so you want to see that family unit succeed. Was that a deliberate choice that that's like the 1-2 of like
Yes.
like not only are things going to be cruel to you, but you really hope they don't?
100%. Like, yes, the cruelty of nature is the point, because it's not a like specific and intentional cruelty. It's just the state of nature. And having that against the like strong familial bonds and a kind of family that feels very human in its relationships, like you get to do a lot of the like the world is cruel and all we have is each other. And we all have families that are both sweet, and there's like moments of conflict, and like not every relationship is perfect, but at the end of the day, and this isn't like always true, but it is a truism that like your family can get on your nerves, and all that tension comes from the fact that like they know you and you are known by them. And as we move through and learn more about this family and who they are to each other, having it juxtaposed against the world is cruel and terrible, and you are all you have, so protect it, feels like a really fun place to begin an adventure from.
Absolutely beautiful. Pete, do you want to hop on so we can do this lightning round?
Yes, lightning round begins now. Insert
Woo!
graphic here, future me. All right. So first off, we talked about earlier, and I've already lost one bet because Christian pronounced worlds beyond number correctly and not worlds without number.
Every time I talk about your podcast.
We picked 4 inspirations each for what we thought inspired the show. We'll let you choose who came closer. I'm pretty sure I'll lose this one. We both obviously picked Watership Down. We both obviously picked The Secret of Nim. Christian went with Peter Rabbit, Beatrix Potter style, and of course he went with Redwall. I may have gone a little too far. I went with Fern Gully because I saw the factory and the set, but then I went with Clan of the Cave Bear because I was like, generational family story. I think I might have lost.
Ooh, gosh, this is so interesting. Shoot. You're both, so the hard part is you're both right in different directions. Because there's something about the 2 other comps that Christian picked that makes sense that you get to later, but also the threat. I think Peter, you got it on the threat, and Christian's got it on the evolution of the group. So I'm gonna say it's a tie.
And I'm only down one.
You say the rudest thing.
All right. Next, as a Worlds Beyond Number Patreon, is this a project that Erica almost spoiled on the Fireside chat?
Yes. It was because when we were I had been noodling on this for a while, brought it up in a photo shoot for Worlds Beyond Number. We laughed and talked about it a bunch. And then when I eventually came and started pitching it and working on it for D20, Erica mentioned it before we had locked, yes, this is what we're doing. We can get there. Who do you want for your cast? So I was just like, hey, I think I'm just at the yes now, and you're going to get an email in an hour. So maybe shush. But there's been meaningful changes since those first things that we talked about. So I know a lot of people are like, cyberpunk? And you're like, calm down. No spoilers, but yeah, we moved away from some of those themes in a little bit across the season, but you'll see.
Got it. All right, and now we know that originally this was produced under the name Stotal Recall, and I've posted some of these on Twitter before, but now we want to see if you had a favorite alternate title for the series. We're going to include Stotal Recall. The other options are Weasel Ship Down, Stoats, Blue Wall, Stotal Eclipse of the Heart, and Animal Farm 2 is the search for Curly's gold.
Incredible. Someday I will do a big long tweet thread about Stotal Recall, so that one's going to lose right away because I was just like, the expectation set by that specific phrase makes me feel crazy, even though the pun's gold. I'm going to go Animal Farm 2, the search for Curly's gold, because that's delightful.
I'm back on the board. Yeah. And then the last one was also because we just saw this, and this is we have 2 real quick ones. One is, did Jasper start a face paint arms race on the set? Because it looks like he showed up in legit some of the best face paint ever, and then as the series goes on, we start in the trailer. Suddenly, more and more people are on the face paint train.
I think Jasper and Rashawn both were like, let's do big looks. And I think that was the arms race within the cast. Now, I can never be stopped. I will serve extra layers of theme whenever I can you have to stare at my face. I'm the GM. You have to stare at my face for way too long. So let's tell a story with it. So I liked that they came in strong. So I was like, great. If you've seen some of the press images, I'm covered in color like a Godier video. So I was like, great. I'm glad it's not just me. We're all going big here. And it was beautiful.
Nice. And the very final one. This is a season based on Stoats. So is the final episode just the cast devastating the native bird population of New Zealand?
100%. We fly out, we wreck shop, and we go home.
That's all we need to know. I'll let you wrap it up, Christian.
Okay. Well, the first episode of Dimension 20, Burrow's End, comes out October 4th. Yes, I was right.
Nailed it.
And the first episode, as with all Dimension 20 episodes, or all Dimension 20 seasons, will be available free on YouTube a couple of weeks later. So if you're watching this, be sure to give this a shot. Aabria, any final thoughts or words before we let you go?
Oh, how about I'm sorry in advance, and we're gonna have a great time.
Oh God.
Oh God, that's the last question we have to ask. The most important last question, and that is on a scale of Milo and Otis to Plague Dogs, what is the emotional devastation we should expect?
Ooh, different kind of devastations across the season. I'm gonna give it a 7.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, there we have it. Thank you all so much. And then thanks for Christian. Thank you for Aabria. And we will see you guys next time.